Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So first of all, a warm welcome to Jyoti ma'am,
Thank you so much.
a literary critic, a columnist, and a lot of things, which we are discuss further. So if I would tell her about, in a nutshell, an HR turned author, Jyoti Jha has been associated with corporates like Infosys and Whirlpool in the past. Having lived in the US and UK for more than a decade, she embarked upon the journey of exploring in the field of literature. As I mentioned, a literary critic, a columnist and esteemed winner of the Times of India Right Season 3. She has authored two books, The Realms of Human Emotions and Around the World Through My Lens. And she has also an upcoming book named Anandi. A proud panelist and guest speaker at most of the prestigious colleges like IIT Jammu, IIM Lucknow, and she has also been a esteemed jury member at the IIT BHU. So before talking further, I'd love to know something about you from yourself.
First of all, thank you so much. Thank you, Oxford Bookstores, for this wonderful opportunity at your prestigious platform. It's quite an honor. And thank you, Literia Insight, for bringing this opportunity. And thank you, Nitish, for being there always and being through the entire process. And thank you for that generous introduction. So about me, as you have already said, I am an HR turned author, an MBA by qualification, and I have worked in the corporates, and it's like maybe in another lifetime that I worked in the corporates. But and after that, I made a conscious choice of taking a break from my career. And during that time, I traveled, I globe trotted with my family. I took care of my child, and then when I was back in India, so once I was back in India, I always wanted to do something again with my life, because a long time, a number of years of my life I had spent as a traveler, as a homemaker, or as a corporate person, a professional. But then there was always that deep desire of starting a second inning, and that's when writing happened in my life. And since then it has been a very fruitful journey, and I look forward to a great journey ahead as well. And I have associated with many people during this time, and here I am today with my book, The Realms of Human Emotions.
Our audience would love to say, so how does this book, look alike? Because it has been in news all over in the country. So we'd love to have a first-hand look of the book.
Yeah, this is the book, The Realms of Human Emotions. And
okay, there will be one question of mine. What inspired you exactly to write, this book? As this book is a short story collection, okay, and what prompted you to write a book with a short story collection?
See, short stories, I would definitely give the credit first and foremost to Write India campaign by Times of India, because I saw that, as I said, I was looking forward. I knew I wanted to write. I was encouraged by my family and friends, and because I had written few pieces of movie reviews, book reviews, which were quite appreciated. And they said, why don't you try writing, because you have a knack of writing. So that's when Write India happened in my life. And being a winner in the very first time I participated was quite a trophy that I will cherish throughout my life. And that's when I understood that writing short stories is my forte, I thought. And I'm definitely going to stick to that and try different genres as well. But short stories is something that I really enjoy doing. So I had written a few more stories after Write India. And that's when I happened to meet Literia Insight. And of course, thank you to Nitish, because you then definitely guided me and handholded me, because I was not very sure about how a collection of short stories would happen, what is the market, and anything. I was a very new person in the field of writing. And thank you for guiding and handholding through the entire process, and convincing me to come up with this book, a collection of short stories. And I'm extremely thankful today, and I feel really happy that I listened. And of course, yeah, every story is so dear to me. And the process has been very enriching and entertaining and enjoyable.
Okay, as there has been description in about the author. Also, we said that you have written travelogue.
Yes.
You have written a short story collection.
Yes.
Your upcoming book is a novel.
Yes.
And that's even in a different language.
Yes.
To be precise, in Hindi.
Yes.
So, what are the challenges while writing in different genres, and sometimes, especially in case of you, in different language?
Yeah, see, first I will say different genres. I think more than challenges, it's more of an opportunity for any writer to try different genres, because it opens up new avenues and it helps us push our limits and getting out of that comfort zone and trying different ideas. And the genres are interchangeable, they keep evolving. So we as writers also need to keep evolving as well. So trying different genres is a good idea. And for me, it has worked out so far so well. And I would definitely like to keep doing that, because all the legends we see and any writer, they have written in different genres. And, so for me also, it has been very wonderful experience as a learner and as a newbie. And I would definitely want to keep improving and evolving as a writer and keep trying different genres. And coming to the next part of the question, that Hindi.
Yeah, different language.
Yeah, a different language. Since I'm very comfortable with both the languages, English and Hindi, English is more like it helps me communicate with larger audience. And since in school, it was an English medium education, so I'm well versed, and having traveled to many places, it is a language that helps me connect with a larger audience. But Hindi is my native, my language, and which I'm most comfortable. So expressing in both the languages was equally interesting for me, because I think the story, it chooses its own medium and language. So for me, it happened that way. So the travelogue and the short story collection had to be in English, and my book Anandi had to be in Hindi. So if I had to say that, vice versa, write this book in Hindi or Anandi in English, that wouldn't happen for me. So it, more than challenge, again, it has been more, enriching experience for me in trying out both the languages.
But we are accustomed to see, good books translated into different languages. As you mentioned that it had to be.
Yes.
So I would, ask that what prompted you that, okay, I will write Anandi in Hindi, the realms of human emotions in English, and around the world through my lens in English. So was there any particular reason, or it came naturally?
It just came naturally for me, because there was no reason. When I started writing, I never thought what is going to be there, whether what is the market for which language or which book. I was, as I said, I'm just a newbie, and I just realized one day, okay, I want to be a writer. I want to express through my writing. So the books just happened. More than me writing books, I think books happened to me. So as and when they kept happening in my life, so that's how all the 3 books have happened. And yes, translation is a good thing to happen to books, because they reach the there's an wider range of audience. You connect to so many more people from different languages. So I would be most happy to see my books in different languages. But originally, the stories happened the way they were meant to happen. Whether it was the travelogue or whether it was short stories, it happened in English, because when I was writing, it just came out that way. And Anandi had to be in Hindi, because that's how I could just visualize, and for the format came in my mind.
You had mentioned multiple times,
Yes.
during our conversation that, I'm a newbie, I've just started.
Yes.
But your journey has been quite exemplary and inspirational, starting
Yes.
just from, a popular blogging platform.
Yes.
Okay. And recently you were a jury member at the prestigious IIT BHU in the poetry competition and in the storytelling competition.
Yes.
So how do you sum up your journey?
Yeah, I would sum up my journey as, starting with a short story, and then, being a blogger, and then reaching to the prestigious platform of, IIT BHU and being a jury member.
As you'd also been, speaker to IIT Delhi, IIM Lucknow, IIT Jammu, Christ College, a lot of places. And, so what difference had it made, as an author, in the moment you had started writing and the moment you are living, your dream?
It is a very wonderful, and it's very difficult to say it because I can only feel it. But of course, writers are best, people to express themselves. So what I would say is all three experiences have been very different. Winning a title of, Write India was for a story, and that's when I became a writer. And then I was introduced to an online virtual world where I came across so many people from, writing and blogging field. And I learned the, nuances and technicalities of having an online presence and to be able to express without any inhibitions. And that's when I became a blogger. And then Literia Insight happened in my life, and which I'm greatly thankful to, because all along this past two stages, I said there was always a deep desire of being a published author. So I always wanted to have that. So when Literia Insight happened and they guided me with the publishing process and bringing out two of my books. So, and now when I look at those books and the things that I've achieved, the milestones that I've achieved in the past 2 years is, being, as you've mentioned, being a speaker at talk shows, at prestigious platforms like IIM Lucknow or IIT Delhi, IIT BHU, and IIT Jammu, and also being introduced to RJ shows, or whether it was the media presence or interviews. Everything that has happened as an author is deeply nourishing and enriching, and quite a learning process, and it makes me feel wonderful. I feel lucky, because I have heard so many stories from people, when they are ready with their manuscript and then they are ready to just receive all the rejection letters from everywhere. So thankfully that never happened in my life. So I didn't have to go through that difficult phase. So I have been lucky so far.
Okay.
And I hope to remain so.
Yeah, I remember there was a review of your book.
Yeah.
Actually, not a review, a criticism, I would love to say, that, in the Free Press Journal, one of the prominent media houses of the country, that your story, one of the particular stories, exhaustingly predictable. So how do you, react, or what would be your opinion on that?
See, what I would say is initially it is quite a setback, especially when you're just starting out and it's my first story collection. And definitely everybody, it's natural tendency for people to just being appreciated for everything. But of course, as a person, if we want to grow, and there's always a room for improvement as I keep learning. So,
but,
yeah.
But the book has already been published.
Yeah, the book is already published, but what I, as writer, as I feel is the way we want our readers to connect to our stories may not happen with each and every reader or every person who is reviewing, or a critic who is looking at your work. So every person has their own opinion, their own way of connecting to a literary contribution by any author or any writer. So I respect each and every opinion and review, and I learn, I take it constructively. So I try to learn from it and inculcate it into my writing, so that next time, that person comes to me and says, oh, wow, your story is simply wonderful. Yes. So it gives me a room for improvement. So I take it constructively.
That's great. Yeah, actually, we have also seen, one of the prominent media of the country, TU, has quite praised it. Praised a lot about. So now, at that time, when coming simultaneously, one media house is, a little bit, passing, criticism, and one is appraising. So how do you balance those both emotions?
Yeah, I was elated when, of course, with appreciation, you feel a sense of, rejuvenation. And when there is, coming back to Free Press Journal, they have appreciated all the other stories. Only one story that they gave. Yeah. So there's only one story. So I focus on all. I'm happy when there is appreciation, and I'm also happy when there is, critique, because that gives me, as I said, that gives me a room for improvement. So I try to balance, because too much of, getting carried away and too much of being, sad is not good. So I'm learning, and it feels good to be appreciated at the end of the day.
Okay, there was one question of mine. The book is centrally themed on emotions.
Yes.
Now, talking about the emotions, author is said to be, a pool of, various emotions.
Yes.
how much it is, how much it is possible to differentiate ourselves from being an author and from being a, day-to-day person simultaneously.
Oh. It's quite difficult because when we are writing, we are completely immersed in a different world. As you
Agree.
said, yeah, when we are writing, we are completely different. There is a different world out there. But once we snap out of it, then we just get back to our routine and we completely forget, okay, we were there. So it's like, time traveling or, traveling to a different universe altogether. So it happens like that with me. And I think it may happen with other writers and authors as well. So being a person and coming to emotions, I think it is rightly said and believed that people with higher emotional intelligence are better writers, because unless you are able to understand emotions within you, outside you, and around, and within people around you and everywhere, you are not able to express that through your characters and everything that you want to express in your writing and bring that element that helps the readers connect. So emotions are quite important in writing and as a person when you snap out of your writing zone.
What would be the biggest takeaway for our readers from, the realms of human emotions?
Biggest takeaway would be like, using your emotions constructively and how to use it to, change the course of action and, bringing that life changes. Because like a story in my book is about, communication. So the importance of communication in any relation, or whether, it's a sibling bond, whether there is a, artist or a muse. There are so many setups from different walks of life, different phases of life. So the biggest takeaway is channelizing your emotions constructively and using it to make your life more meaningful and more positive.
You had earlier mentioned that, your stories are a little bit inspired from real people, right?
Yes.
So how much it is easier or difficult for the readers to connect when the story is a real incident from any other's life and people are trying to connect with that story?
See, when people are reading a book, it's like, even if you write a fiction, if a reader is connecting with your story, that person is going to imagine, okay, it is your story. So whether it is your story inspired by real life people or real life incidences or incidents, or whether it is completely fictional and, completely out of your imagination, it is just a story out there. And if the reader is able to connect it in any way, it's first and foremost most important for any writer. And coming back to real life incidents and how it's like it's very difficult to put. Readers, the main purpose is letting the readers connect with your writing. And if you are able to achieve it, whether through real incidents and or fictional or imagination, is of prime importance.
Okay. What is the most difficult part in writing process
Mm-hmm.
as a, a debut author?
As a debut author, writing, I used to think that writing itself is very difficult. But yeah, once I was out with my manuscript and everything, and then I realized that what comes later, that's the easiest part that you can do, is you can write a manuscript. What comes later is the most difficult part. So once your manuscript is ready in your hand, then what comes later, bringing it to in the hands of the readers, getting it published and, getting it marketed and branding yourself, branding your book, all those things that come later is the most difficult part. But it is a learning process and an enjoyable one.
And what is your kryptonite as an author?
My kryptonite, as I keep saying, I'm quite new, so to completely pinpoint what it is. But as of now, as far as I know, I can understand is I have many a times, many ideas flowing through me, all those creative juices ready to come out. But I have a bad habit of putting it all away. I keep thinking that, okay, someday, sometime I'll write it. and then it just goes away. So that procrastination is my kryptonite, but I'm working on it. What I have started doing is, whenever I get those ideas, I'll at least jot down the points, so that later I can give it a particular form or a shape of a story or whatever.
Okay. Somewhere you had mentioned that, you are very much comfortable while writing when you are with your pets. You have two rabbits.
Yes.
So how much, it helps, when we have pets, so some people prefer to have cats, some people prefer to have, puppy. So does it really work? Because you own a pet. Okay, so does it really work for an author?
Yes, I think for me as a person and an author, because my writing started, okay, that's my quirk, you would say, but my writing began once those rabbits were with me, so I keep connecting that to, and recently as I reviewed a book and I read a book, The Doctrine of Peace, and that's when I completely related to the feeling and the intention that was given in the book. It's very spiritual. It's a spiritual journey connecting with other species, and as a writer, that is the best thing that can happen to us, getting that consciousness and being able to spiritually connect and discovering that aspect of us as a human being. So it opens up many avenues. So for me, it works quite well. And I would advise people to start loving pets and have them and take care of other species as well.
Okay. Who are your favorite authors?
My favorite authors, I think every author I come across is my favorite.
No, actually, our viewers would love to know that who motivates you, but who's the writings of the authors which motivate you, inspire you, that okay, I wanna be someday, I wanna be like get as close to him, I wanna meet him. Wow. So who are your favorite authors?
Yeah, there again, I can count them, but the first and foremost that comes to my mind, and I would be definitely wanting to meet or be guided by that person if I could ever in my life, is Alice Munro, because as I said, short stories is my favorite, and who better than Alice Munro to be inspired by? She's a legend, she's an icon, and she inspires so many. And of course, she has revolutionized short story writing, and she spills magic through her writings. And recently, a little time back, I read one of her works, Dear Life, and I'm yet to read so many of her works. And the way she keeps, uses so many elements in her writing, and then through that, she is able to portray and decipher, human complexities so simplistically. So that is the thing that really inspires me. And I would like to learn a little bit, even an ounce of it. And if I'm able to reflect that in my writing or learn, that would be really an honor, and I'll be really happy.
Which is your favorite story apart from your own book?
Story apart from my own book? Oh, okay. There's so many of them. I remember in my childhood, I had read The Bet, and I had read God Sees the Truth But Waits. So Leo Tolstoy, Anton Chekhov. So I love those stories. I love stories from Munshi Premchand, and I love stories, as I said, Alice Munro. I love almost all the stories from her book, Dear Life. And I like a novel, The Namesake, I love, from Jhumpa Lahiri. And there are so many.
Yeah, of course, there are so many writers, and every author. If you'll ask my favorite would be Franz Kafka.
Oh yes.
So obviously, different authors, different readers, different favorites. Some some we get very good, as you said, we should not be carried away when some readers say that okay, I am getting the same favorite author as yours. So of course, it feels that okay, we are on the same page with our readers.
Yes.
So these things happen. That's great.
True.
So okay, what is your favorite story from your own book?
Oh, from my own book. I love all the stories. I think it will be very difficult for me to choose. Very difficult. But of course, if you ask me, there are two actually. I would name two. Durga is my favorite, and the painting is my favorite.
So which if you'd have to vote for one, Durga or the painting? what would you vote for?
Oh my God.
Because
Okay.
people love to know that which one is the best one according to the author himself. So how
I would
our
vote,
readers are.
if given a chance, I would vote for them in two different categories.
That's the next one.
Yes,
Vote into
but
two different categories.
yeah, and I would prefer it that way. But of course, if there's only one choice, then I'll vote for the painting.
That's the painting, and that's
Yes.
seriously a wonderful story.
Thank
Okay,
you
there
so
was one question of mine.
much.
As you said that you have already mentioned, and you have mentioned in different talks that you have a penchant for short stories.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
but as a debut author, you started your career with a travelogue,
Yes.
but now you have switched to novel. So what are the readers going to expect from you? The next title. The next title.
See, as I said, I want to be a storyteller, and I visualize myself as a storyteller. And also, I have written a novel, but again, every chapter of it is kind of a story, although they are connected in a central theme. So I think most of me would be storytelling. But of course, I'll also keep coming up with, as I said, I would like to experiment my writing and keep growing as an author and as a writer. So I'll keep trying different genres and different forms of writing. So storytelling would be prima focus, and then around it there would be few more things that anything that I could try my hands on.
So there's one more question of mine. A lot of authors, have, that, writing block. Have you
Yes.
faced some situations anytime that, okay, there are things like I want to write, but words are not coming, out of my, pen, which I will, or out of my,
Yes.
mind, whatever. Thoughts are there, but we're not able to
Yes.
write it, jot it down on the paper.
Yes.
How it happened with you?
Yes, it has happened with me, and I know I've only begun, but I think it happens with people at any stage of their writing, whether they are a new writer or an established one, but it might happen anytime and to anybody, and it has happened with me. So it's like, as I say, first stage is procrastination, and then it leads to a writer's block. So yeah, that is
nice,
another
First stage is
kryptonite.
procrastination,
Yeah,
then
that is
writer's
another
block.
kryptonite that writers face. So writer's block, yeah, but it's and it could last for maybe a few moments to even years.
For
So I
years,
pray
yeah.
that it never happens like that to anybody, and I try to work around it. Maybe sometimes just taking a walk, taking a little break from your writing, take a walk, freshen up your mind, and unclutter everything that is there. Sometimes it helps. And as I said, sitting with my pets is definitely therapeutic, and it's healing and it's rejuvenating. So
it helps you to escape from the writing block.
Yes, yes, it has helped me.
Okay, there was one question of mine, that today we are seeing a lot of youngsters are, getting, they're, interested in reading short stories and writing short stories. So what would be your advice to the youngsters?
See, what
who want
I would
to write short stories, or, yeah.
Sorry. Yes. See, what I would say is, if you want to write a short story, first of all, short story writing, they think is easy, but it's not easy. It's even more difficult than writing a novel, because there's less room for character development. And, there's so many things you are just squeezing in, a few words. So it's a difficult process, but if done correctly, it's wonderful. Because short stories is because nowadays the youngsters are anyway, they are very impatient, they have less time. So now with 6-word story and microfiction and flash fiction, so a world of where we have flash fiction, microfiction, and 6-word stories. So I think short stories is quite handy and it's very good. And when you start writing as a new beginner, if you're writing a short story, it's a very good way of begin your writing. And what I would say is to the newbies and people who want to write is, first and foremost, write what you want to write. Don't get into the trap of what the market demands, what is going to be there, whether it will be published, whether it will be accepted, whatever. Just those things will come later in your life or in your writing. So the first piece that you write should be from your heart, and straight from what you think should be there on the paper. And even if it doesn't make sense to you, or you think it is a trash or whatever, just let it out there, because writing heals. Writing is a best way of expressing yourself. You never know what works when. So just to write what comes to you.
Okay, which books apart from your own book would you suggest to the youngsters to read? Apart from your own book.
I will definitely, first of all, despite you giving the warning, I would say read all my books. But apart from that, there's so many contemporary writers. I would advise your book first and foremost, Love in Modern Times. I would definitely say go and read that book. It's a wonderful book and beautiful stories and from life, and there is so much to learn from the stories. And apart from that, there are so many stories and books that I would recommend. Alice Munro, out and out, go and read. Read Jhumpa Lahiri, and there's Janice.
Especially, then Jhumpa Lahiri is one of the finest authors from our country.
Yes. So read that, and there's so many more. Amish Tripathi, Chetan Bhagat. Read any book and any kind of book that you want to read. Just go out there and read. Read Kiran Desai, read Anita Desai, and there are many. Read Manu Bhandari. Sorry. Yes.
Okay, there was one question of mine. As you asked, you told about, you talked from Munshi Premchand to Alice Munro.
Yes.
So, and you are right, you have written in, both languages. The latest book is, going to, get into the market very soon.
Yes.
Okay. And the other book which we are talking about is already, making rounds in the, the literary circuit.
Mm-hmm.
So does it makes difference? Does it make difference when we are reading writers of two different languages? For example, if I'm reading Franz Kafka and if I'm reading Munshi Premchand, they both are the doyens.
Yes.
Okay, of the short story genre.
Yes.
So is it going to make a difference, or is it going to enrich me positively? That is one question of mine.
See, I think and I believe is that literature in any form and any language is enriching. So whether it is Hindi or English or two different setups altogether, because Munshi Premchand is right from the roots from our own country, and there's so much of as we say Grameen Parivesh. So there's so much of that reflected in his work, and from day-to-day living that we connect to as Indians.
I think there have been.
Hello.
Yeah, it's okay now. It's okay now.
Am I audible? Okay.
Yeah, of course you are audible.
Okay. Yeah, as I was saying is Munshi Premchand's work is so much connected to our roots from our own country, so it's more relatable. But having said that, any other author from any other part of the world is equally, appreciable, and so much of inspiration they give to any writer or any reader. So Franz Kafka, as you said, has a different setup in his writing altogether. But
my personal favorite.
Yes, but that is equally enriching, I would say. There are two different genres, there are two different setups, but it's enriching. And, as readers, as much as we can grasp is good for us, because even if as we are not going to be writers, even if we as person, literature is always enriching. And if we are going to become writers, then definitely the more we read, the more we can write, and the more we can keep improving in our writing.
Okay, my last question would be, I will say that what would be your suggestion or advice to our viewers?
To the viewers?
Yeah. Our viewers. Yeah. Of course, a lot of people are watching you.
Yes.
And so what would be your suggestion from the prestigious platform of the Oxford Bookstore?
Yeah, first of all, I would thank everyone who is there with us today. And I would suggest, please go and read all the books, and any books you can get your hands on. Don't give up the habit of reading, because, video content is good. It is entertaining, but literature and reading is very enriching. So, as much as you entertain yourself, you always try to enrich yourself. So reinculcate the habit of reading as many books you can, and keep writing if you want to. So keep reading and keep writing.
Okay. That was, that was so nice of you, ma'am. And, it has been really, a nice interaction. And thanks to Atul also, from the Oxford Bookstores, and to the Oxford team, of the whole team of Oxford Bookstores, who are in such, nice and interactive session. Thank you, guys. Thank you all for such, your lovely time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.